Welcome, everyone, to the Captive Audience. We're pre recording this show, but it will air on September 11th. And I'm Kevin Hoare, and I am very pleased to have with me as my guest today Jeff Helfrich, state representative from District 52, covers a decent swath of the area around Hood River into East Multnomah County. Anything I'm missing there?
It
Cascade
goes it goes from basically the Dalles Dam downriver to the Sandy River, cuts in through Gresham, and then Highway 26 just outside of Sandy. They gerrymandered that out. Imagine that. And then it has the rest of Clackamas, all of Mount Hood, all of Hood River County, and then part of Wasco County. That's the district.
Wow, that's a pretty big size area to cover, but at the same time, I like that you mentioned gerrymandering because I thought only Republicans gerrymandered. That's what we've been
Oh
hearing in
no!
the news lately.
Oh no! Well, the Democrats did that a couple of years ago, and they changed the course of Oregon politics for at least a decade. They really did. You know, when I was House Leader, I really was, trying to win seats and build back and keep winning and winning because I knew when 2023 came or 2030 came, it was going to be the fight to reimagine what Oregon could look like and actually have decent districts that represented the people, not having, I don't know, like Representative Maxine Dexter that doesn't even live in our district. She lives up in the West Hills, but yet she has a portion of Multnomah County that's fingers all the way out to Hood River County. It's nice blue district that's all Democrat, and a Republican will never hold that. And so to tell me they trade it fairly, it's not. They don't do it fairly. They don't play fair.
Yeah, they actually like to include Portland in just about every district they can to make it
Yeah.
not competitive. Well, and the thing is, the Democrats, it's as a friend of mine likes to say, you spot it, you got it. The Democrats know all about gerrymandering because they excel at it and they've done it
Yep.
for a long time. They just don't call it that. They said we all came together on the maps in 2021 after the census. We just came together. And I remember giving testimony to quite a different opinion about what they were doing. And now they're angry about what's happening in Texas, but that's just because it's their own medicine being used on them. Of course, they're going to complain.
Well, look what they're going to do in California. Gavin Newsom wants to call a special session, redo the districts there. So they basically push out all the Republicans so it stays even. It is a big scam. It's this big scam, and it's the whole West Coast stuff where they're talking about having their own medical healthcare reform stuff, whatever it is, the Healthcare Alliance. That's just a bunch of hogwash too. So they don't like what's going on in DC. We're going to do it ourselves out here because we got to be the left coast and be different. It's just, I'm getting sick of it, man. It's getting tiring.
Well, so how was your day today? Because mine
You
was
know,
pretty strange.
mine started out really well. I woke up early. My wife and I like to hunt, and so we went up and grabbed our mountain bikes and scooted in a couple places and looked for bear and some deer out here in Hood River. That's where we live at, and didn't get successful, but we in turn went and did the the ride of shame with no game, but came back and did our stuff around here. And then unfortunately, I saw the news where it showed that Charlie Kirk had been shot. Didn't know what it was. How bad it was. I saw the video of it. It's a horrific video. My days of police work, I knew that was not a good because it looked like going to be a good outcome, and it changed. And I put a statement out that says we have to stop political rhetoric. It's ratcheting up so much. We've had two assassination attempts on the former, now current president. And we've had, lawmakers in Minnesota get killed and their family members.
Yep.
And we've had this event and its incident, and it's just purely assassination. It's evil. And I heard some people talking Charlie Kirk was so effective in communicating and getting a message across and getting young people engaged in what it means to be an American and what it means for conservative values and just this broad thing. He got killed for having a discussion. And that's all he was. If you look at him in his videos, he's always treated people respectfully. I mean, I watched one, I think it was in Cambridge, that took on professors there and just went circles around them when they were talking nonsense. And it's sad that it ends in violence. We got to stop it. I mean, I remember when I was House Republican leader, during when Trump was the attempted assassination on then former President Trump, candidate Trump. I came out strong against that, and it just keeps going and going and going, and people are getting killed. And I knew as a lawmaker, excuse me, I knew as a state when I was the police officer that I might not come home. I made good with that, but I made sure I came home and trained and trained and trained. And now that I'm a lawmaker, I never thought I'd have to worry about what's behind door number one or who's going to be out there in that audience and want to try to take my life because they didn't like what I said. And that's what it's boiled down to. It's the rhetoric on the left has been so outrageous. This fascism stuff, all these things that they keep ratcheting stuff up, the BLM stuff. I was just watching another news article on, or listening to it and reading it. It's just the rhetoric is getting out of hand, and you gotta have a conversation. If you don't like it, you don't have to kill somebody over it. Just have a conversation, walk away. People would always say that, Jeff, how's it being a state legislator? I said, you know what, pretty good day. When I was a police officer, had a traffic stop, I didn't know what was behind that car door, what was going to happen, or when I knocked on a door, a call. And the Capitol, there's no blood, no dead bodies. That's fine. Nobody's trying to take my birthday away from me. Well, now you pause. Somebody might try to take my birthday away from me, and I might not be home and see my family. And we're just trying to make a difference. And you don't solve problems with bullets. You solve them with votes. And if you don't have enough votes, go get more votes. But you don't kill people over it. You just can't. It's getting out of control.
And it's really the violent rhetoric, isn't it? Because people have started to normalize violence. In fact, they don't even call it that. We saw the Summer of Love in Portland and up in Seattle, and people just insisted that was peaceful protest. Mostly,
they were so full of it. Peaceful maybe during the daytime when the camera's there, but when at night the hooligans came out, and just like they're doing right now. I mean, former Representative Julie Parrish, State Representative Julie Parrish, got her law license and works for a law firm. And there's a gal that had sued the city for not doing their job, i.e., the police going out and arresting people like they're supposed to, and they're under consent decree. And there's questions whether they're even following the consent decree when it comes to public order. And with all that said, there have been night after night after night of these protests, and the news media is not covering it. You know why? Because I don't want to say it's the fake news media, but it's the news media being manipulated. Oh, we don't want Portland to look bad. This isn't really that big a deal. It's only around this small little area. And it's still going on. You've got fire bombs, you've got fireworks, you've got all these things that are happening down there. And it's not, you don't see it on the news, but all of a sudden it showed up. A couple of news feeds happened. Fox News got a hold of it, and Julie Parrish was interviewed on Fox News. The president's starting to talk about it. Guess what? There's change going to happen. And he's got a good Oregon attorney, the U.S. attorney for the District of Oregon. You know what? There's going to be some changes happening. People aren't going to like it. The protesters are going to protest. They're going to do stupid stuff.
The bad guys aren't going to like it.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Do stupid things, get stupid prizes. I can't wait to see these stupid prizes they're going to win, because you can't have this disorder. You have to have law and order. You can't have all this mayhem happening and have a good functioning society. And I think there's a part of the left that wants to have mayhem because they didn't get their way. Their person didn't get elected, and Kamala Harris, and all these things. Not only did Trump win the popular vote, he won the Electoral College. He is our president. He is who is running this country, and he's doing a good job, but yet people don't like it. They're trying to pick their marbles and go up somewhere else. Well, they're taking their marbles and throwing them at people because they don't like it. They're having a little temper tantrum. That's all it is. A bunch of little babies having a temper tantrum.
Yeah, temper tantrum, but they're armed, and they got fireworks. They got cement shakes. They got Molotov cocktails in some cases. They're looking for a guy. They think he's in Portland who's wanted for a 2020 Molotov cocktail attack on a federal facility in Atlanta. And they're looking for him right now. Him, I say, because he went and got his name and gender changed when he came to Oregon. And
of course he did. It's okay to do that, right? Whatever. Yeah.
Well, it's turned into a clever way to evade, because he did
get captured.
Yeah, they didn't figure out that he was on the federal most wanted list there, and because
he figured
lied about his birthday.
Yeah. Oh, imagine that. Bad guys lie about something.
I know.
Oh, whatever. So you're back. You're back to throwing the cement bottles, water bottles. I mean, even I remember when I was in the Mounted Patrol Unit or in regular protests when I was a sergeant, in down there. I mean, they would take water bottles and freeze them and throw them at you, and then we just threw a water bottle at you. It's a solid
Yeah.
thing of ice.
Projectile.
It's a projectile that's going to hurt, and they do hurt. But yet, the police are expected to take this. What they think that the police should take. Oh, you're a police officer. You should know this. Well, no wonder you don't have enough police officers out here protecting the city, because you are not empowering them to go do their job. You go look at police in Florida, Georgia, Tennessee, all these places. You run from the police, they're gonna start bending sheet metal. They're not afraid to put the car in the ditch and end a pursuit and take a bad guy to jail. But yet out here, well, we have to think about this restorative justice, all these things, other than holding people accountable. And that's the silliest thing. I mean, Portland's still a mess. No matter what they say, you spend how much money, millions of dollars to clean that up. You still got graffiti. The town is, downtown is broken. There's not people coming back. You've got the doom loop coming. There's an economist that just said, "Hey, look, the growth of Portland stopped." One of my posts on my social media talks about that, and yet they had another post says, "Oh, you're wrong, Representative Helfrich. It's growing." Like, no, this guy says it's not. It's got our land use laws are antiquated. They're back from the 70s when they were trying to stop stuff. Now it's stopping growth, and if we're stopping growth, the economic developments of our communities are failing. You've got businesses leaving. You've got corporations leaving. You've got people leaving. This used to be a place to come to in the 90s and 2000s. Now people they are punching out and saying, "I'm done with this place." I don't blame them. I'm here fighting for it, but still.
Well, the thing you were just talking about, that is a report, an economist, Eco Northwest, actually, who mostly does studies for the Democrats, I have to say. But
he's left of center for sure.
He's actually telling the truth here, that Oregon's days of spending
prosperity,
more money and prosperity based on more people coming here is over. That we're actually in probably a shrinking phase for a number of reasons. People leaving because of the circumstances that you just described, but also the birth rate is below replacement rate,
right?
And so the population is going to shrink now because of, and these are policies that have caused the state to be this way, and so coming back to there seems to be a fundamental problem. The media is not supposed to be a travel agency for the state. They're not there to promote stuff. They're there to tell the truth, and they aren't. And because they aren't, people aren't getting on board with the solutions that are really needed if they don't actually see the problems themselves directly. And there should be plenty of evidence that there's something wrong in Portland and in Oregon in general. And you just mentioned the economy. We've got these like Big Pink, this building, nationally renowned now for being sold for I think it was $30 or $40 million, and it was originally a $400 million building. And I understand, by the way, that it's a risk even at that low 10% of original price level, because it costs $1 million a month to run it and that building. So we don't have any assurance until policies change that they're going to be.
Let's go back to the building, the U.S. Bank Tower, whatever they're going to call it. The group that bought it, I think, wants to revitalize Portland. They believe in Portland. They want to do the right things, and they have to figure out what is that building going to look like. And my hope is these special interest groups go in here, well, you have to have X amount for homeless or for shelter or for low income. It's like that. No, it's a privately owned building. It's privately funded. And you're going to have these groups in there telling this what you got to do, this or do that, and these protests. And I hope it doesn't get derailed, because that's my bet. If I was a betting man, that's what I bet is going to happen. There's going to be all these restrictions on what goes on. It's like, then they're going to throw their hands up. Why am I dealing with this? And let's just let the building go away and decay. And then, it's just
Portland was taxed and regulated, regulated to death is what they are.
Oh, you've got the preschool tax, whatever it is, the daycare, whatever the Multnomah County or Metro does. Preschool for all. There we go. And that tax is just insurmountable. People are leaving, and all these businesses. I want to walk back to, Senate Bill 100, which was the land use law under Tom McCall, how they wanted to preserve Oregon. That's right, we do. But that is so antiquated that it takes so long to get building permits going that you have these far left organizations like Thousands of Friends of Oregon, these trial lawyers, whoever you insert, whatever far left agency or when an agency, a group, whatever you want to say it is, they're going to come hammer me. I don't care. I really don't, because people need to have a light shined on this, that they're the ones causing all these problems. We're going to have sound development. We can do that, and we can use the land that's available and the places that are already within the urban growth boundaries. But they always say no. You can drag out a project for 15 years, and this developer that had every intention of developing this ground has spent 15 years fighting all this and paying interest on all this money for these the construction loans, and then they're gone and they've lost money, much money, gone bankrupt. And then you've got businesses like Intel that are across the world of laying people off. Like, all right, fair enough. I put a post out about that. But what people aren't understanding, I sat on the semiconductor committee in 2023, and we gave out $500 million worth of incentives for these people to be here. And how many millions before that to have these fabs, these constructions or these manufacturing facilities be here? And how many giveaways were, hey, you're going to get tax abatement here, all these things to keep them and woo them here. Well, now they laid off 2,400 people because they looked at the uncertainty in the marketplace in Oregon. There's uncertainty in housing. Housing is tremendously expensive. You have people that can make over $100,000 a year, couples, and can't afford to buy a house. One, because there's not enough inventory, and what's there, the interest rates are high, which we can't control, but the prices are so astronomical. And then in order for them to build it, it takes so long to build something, all these costs get added into it. I mean, I had a simple bill, a very simple bill in housing where when somebody pulls a permit, they automatically have to pay these service development fees or the STC fees for sewer hookup. And I said, why do they have to pay for this sewer hookup right now when the house isn't even built? It's just dirt. And so I said, hey, here's a bill that we can forego those. And what I mean forego is they don't have to pay that STC fee and the hookup fee until they turn around and actually get certificate of occupancy. That just means that it be sold, just it's occupiable. You would have thought I was taking everybody's candy from Christmas away, because the cities and the counties came crying and whining that we can't do that. We're not going to be able to do our business that way. Look, you've got a guy that's paying maybe 6 months worth of interest, a developer that's not a billionaire. Maybe he has $1 million or so, but he's paying interest on all that. He's just trying to save a couple nickels together so he can get that next house going. Oh, the whole city, it's just they're suckling up to the bay and getting more free money for all these admin jobs where they should be looking back, hey, where can we streamline costs? Where can we streamline this process? And they don't want to do it. I mean, the Oregon Association of Oregon Cities and Counties, they're the worst. They want my help on one thing, but then I set up something different. Oh, we can't do it this way. We know we're on the opposite side of the aisle of this, but it just doesn't work for our cities. Well, what's going to work? Because everything that comes out of your mouth is no matter what. It's always no, we can't do that instead of yes. Well, how do we get to yes?
And they talk about not only the supply of housing, knowing that having more housing starts to alleviate the pressure on pricing, but then they don't even make the things affordable. There's the time delay, and then they don't make them affordable to build in the first place. You can't have affordable housing to buy if you can't have something that's affordable to build. It's really simple. And the amount of time that they have to finance this and go through all these hoops, it's my understanding that if you build a $400,000 house, you're going to actually have to front about $100,000 before you even start putting anything on the ground.
Yeah. By the time you, like I said, the service development fees, STC fees, those are thousands upon tens of thousands of dollars just to even think about building a house. And no wonder it's not, I live in Hood River. We were very blessed to have the house we have here before the market just went crazy. And I can't imagine, I look at these starter homes here that are $600,000-$700,000. It's a starter home. It could be a tear down. That's crazy. I mean, we were in Idaho over the summer taking the kids to the Silverwood theme park and the water park out there. And I was thoroughly amazed about how they developed out there. The price of houses was it was affordable and reasonable, but they had all the infrastructure in place. I mean, you could actually go a place to go shop, actually drive in, not strip malls, actually places to go shop and get good quality clothing And you live out east of Portland. There's not a lot of places to go shopping. I mean, you have your mom and pop stores, which are awesome, but if
Mhm.
you're looking for some essentials besides just what the mom and pop, the kind of boutique things that are out here, it's hard to find clothes for kids. I mean, the school started, we had to drive into Portland. We had to drive different places. We had to do all these different things, and we had to do all that stuff. And so in doing that, they have to be able to figure out how we build and how we are smart about it, but they just don't want to do anything. They really
Yeah, and that's
don't.
the thing. So a lot of these interest groups that like the current system and the government itself are really the chief
Hmm.
barrier to solving these problems. And then when you propose something that gets the government out of the way, they're like, "Well, that's terrible. You're just undermining everything." I don't see how that's sustainable. And I also question how it is that someone like Governor Tina Kotek can promise 35,000 houses and deliver 11,000 and
Hmm.
and only now start talking about streamlining the process and reducing the costs of permit approvals. It's just they're not serious if that's the way they've been approaching.
In 23, when I was the ranking member, Republican ranking member on housing, we had a bill to do that, and I lost it by one vote in the Senate. I worked my butt off in the House and got it over to the Senate, and the Thousand Friends of Oregon got into somebody's ear and turned around and wouldn't let them get it passed. Oh, I tell you what. Here's the thing. Between the unions, Thousand Friends, and other things on the Democrat side, they are so afraid of their shadow that they were going to get primaried by the unions or get something bad's going to happen. They're not going to get a good rating. It's smoke and mirrors at this point. You tell me what the unions are going to get mad at their Democratic friends if they don't vote for something. Were they going to come to the Republicans? They've treated us like we're just an afterthought, and they
Yeah.
never ask for our help. And then when we do say, hey, we can help you out, and then they don't like what we've done, then they get all mad. And it's like, so the system, there's the status quo has to change. It really does. And Kevin, and it's just, I don't know. I'm a little on the frustrated side because we've got a lot of stuff going on, but that kind of leads into Jeff. We understand you're running for the Senate. Why are you doing that? Because I firmly believe being the senator for Senate District 26 is going to be very helpful coming in these coming years. And that gives me the time and breathing room because you're running every 4 years. And it takes about 2 to 3 sessions to get good policy work done. And I've proven can do good policy work when it comes. I led the charge as a House Republican leader on recriminalizing drugs. That was the right thing to do. There are people in the Republican side of the aisle that we're not going to do anything. We're going to hang it around the Democrats' neck, and like, no, morally we have to do something because people are dying, and we have to hold people accountable. And we got to, everything was geared towards an election. Like, no, we got to do something now. We got to solve problems, and that's what I did. I solved problems, and that's where I think my skill set, moving into the Senate, because you get that chance not to only build relationships, but to go figure out and solve problems and have enough time to get it done instead of 3 months of the work group and then all of a sudden you're rolling into what your bills are going to look like. And hopefully, because you're in the minority, your committee that you're on, you have a good relationship with the chair, and the chair will actually let you have a couple of bills to be heard. But make no mistake, if you're in the minority, you get table scraps.
Yeah, and so that kind of brings us to some of the more recent developments. The state legislature and Governor Kotek didn't exactly do such a great job at even their own agenda at the end of the main session, sine die, back in July, right?
Yep.
Uh, they
End
introduced
of
a
June. End of June. Yep. End of
end
June.
of
There we
June,
go. Yeah.
and it was uh, they introduced a bill very late in the session for transportation and taxation, and then they ended up getting to the finish line only to have some Democrats say they weren't going to go along with it, and
Mm-hmm.
it was that bad. And then they ended the session without passing anything. So they have a special session, and technically we're now in the middle of a special session
Yep.
that started the 29th, so Friday before Labor Day.
Yep.
And the governor couldn't be bothered to either testify in favor of the bill or to even be present in the Capitol over the Labor Day weekend for the special session she called.
Right.
Uh, my understanding is she was on vacation during that time period,
Could have
and
been. I don't know.
her
I have
staff
no
would
inside knowledge on that. Right. So,
her staff
uh,
wouldn't confirm the whereabouts of the governor of the state during that
yeah.
weekend. But anyway, so now the House has passed a major tax increase. And I wondered if you could talk about the nature of that, and then what's going to happen next, because of course it's in the Senate, but the Senate was unable to do its job yet.
So let's roll back. I'm on transportation. I was on transportation before I was leader, and some of my committees were able to be restored, which I appreciate that. Um, I was in those discussions when it came to that transportation package, a broader package, a more comprehensive package. And at the end, they didn't like what we were offering. Senator Starr on the Senate side, he and I worked very closely together to try to figure out something that people could get behind and do. But, they pushed a $15.7 billion tax package, which had been the largest tax increase in Oregon history. And this is because of the failures of the 2017 transportation package. So if we're going to talk about that, let's look at the failures in the 2017 transportation package. What those members there that voted on that package, what they thought they were getting, what actually happened, and see where those failures happened. And then now we're 10 years later, we're stuck with their failures that happened out of that bill. And now we're trying to fix that bill. And so we went from 15.7 down, they trimmed it down to 14 at some point, around 10 or somewhere, I think towards the end. And then they turned around, and at the end, now this new framework is $5 billion, and that's going to be the largest transportation tax hit in history, in the state's history for transportation. And I've made one simple request out of that. What we have to do is preserve and maintain existing infrastructure.
Yeah.
What that means is, before you start chasing any shiny objects anywhere else, preserve what's there. We have to have at least 60% of our roads in good condition. That's by their own study groups. And then you have to have at least 20% of the bridges in good condition. Just before you start chasing anything else, these shiny objects, that should be in the law for the Department of Transportation. Thou shalt do this.
Yeah.
Oh, we can't do that. That could hurt some future projects. That might have downstream effect. No downstream effect, because the downstream effect right now is our roads are crumbling, our bridges are falling apart. That's a problem.
Yeah.
So there's that. And so fast forward, called special session, some arm twisting went along. Well, they tried to twist Anessa Hartman's arm. And I actually talked to Anessa Hartman about this, and it's her story to tell. But
representative from
I'm sorry, from Oregon City, that Oregon City area. And I talked with her, and it was a very good conversation I had with her. She really, I really enjoy working with her. And the takeaway from her was that she understood that her constituents couldn't afford this, just like other moderate Democrats. She stood up and said no.
Yeah, like Mark Meek said the same thing.
And then he got kicked off of transportation. Yeah, he got all that, right? She stood up and said no. Yeah, and she stood up and said no. She was heckled. People like, oh, I can't do this. The unions are really going to be mad. You should really think about this. Could hurt your careers. And I can't get into her. I wanted to speak for her, but like, she stood up and said, no, we can't afford this. And one of my colleagues, Representative Cyrus Javity, voted yes. And then I was like, his story to tell. I'm not going to sit here and think about what he and I have talked about or anything like that, but it's his story to tell. And he's telling a story through social media and other places, but I don't think that was a good vote. That was a vote. And how little it really affects people, this $500 or $600 a year really is. No, they have the money. They could have gotten the money out of the e-board. There was money in the e-board, and took some other money from the general fund, and they could have funded them until we got past the election cycle and actually could have a real conversation, because nobody's going to want to take a tax vote during the election cycle. Democrats aren't going to do it. Oh, they're worried about all of a sudden, the only time they're worried about taxing is during an election year. That's it. Other than Anessa Hartman and a few others that were concerned, but they still voted. They voted how they voted. I'm not going to criticize people that I know how they vote, because they voted a certain way for their reasons. But that is a firm no, because people can't afford this right now. I mean, I fueled up my pickup with diesel 2 days ago at $3.99 a gallon. I drove by the same place, $4.29 a gallon. I went all the way down to Eugene. I guess it was yesterday, and drove down there and drove back. I was watching prices anywhere from $4.30 to $5.20. Are you kidding me? How can there be so much of a difference in fuel prices? I get have to go a little bit further here, another supplier here, whatever, or there's their markup, fine, but we can't keep taxing people more and more. And when people are leaving, these businesses are leaving these evil empires that they call them, and the cat tax, which was going to solve all the school issues, the corporate activity tax,
Yeah.
all that money is going to solve our school issues. We got enough money for them. Wait a minute, still not enough. Oh, it's still not enough.
Not only not enough, but it's actually gotten worse. The student success,
It's
uh,
gone down. Absolutely.
yeah, and it was called the Student Success Act in of
It's, and they haven't
2017.
they haven't all they've succeeded in is wasting more money, and the money's going to the administrative side of the house, not to the students. And we have to figure out, we can't be last or almost at the bottom five in the nation and have spend so much money on schools and not get anything out of it for our kids. It's
Well, so
horrible.
it all ties back to the economy because
Yep.
these taxes and the transportation packages are regressive. They're going to hurt people in the lower and lower middle class income folks the most. The gas tax will be 46 cents. So even if gas prices go down, the gas tax doesn't go down. It actually continues to tax that amount, and it seems like we're creeping towards what people used to complain about was just California, and now we're
Yep.
doing it here. That's not going to bode well because a lot of people have left California. Like 1 million people left California, and prior to the last census, and now Oregon, as you were relating earlier, is probably seeing the end of the heyday of us being this destination for people to come to, and we got businesses leaving. We're over regulating, overtaxing both the businesses and the individuals, and we're delivering terrible education results, which is by no means a way to attract people or businesses to the state. So, coming back to this special session, um, you know, why isn't it an emergency to deal with the things that are hurting the economy, which, by the way, is where the tax revenue for the government comes from?
You know, eh,
I know
we've
you're
had
not the governor, but it's
I
my
know
question.
we've had yeah, no, it's rhetorical. I get it. We've had record revenues, and yet we have record spending. They could have foreseeing this because everybody's worried about the big beautiful bill out of DC, and they're saving money for that because they're worried about this is not my Billy Wicket, but it's uh, Representative E. Warner Reschke is on the revenue, but they're talking about wanting to disconnect from the federal system because they want to be able to tax Social Security still. They want to be able to tax overtime still. They still want to tax all these things because they're going to lose revenue if they don't. But yet the federal government says, hey, you know what? You're on Social Security. You probably shouldn't have to be paying tax on that because times are tough and you should be able to live a good life. And we don't need your money for that. We're doing really good right now. Oh, but Oregon, they need more money. And I have yet to, we don't have a revenue problem. We got a spending problem. And when I say we have the spending problem, case in point, $375 million was set aside for state employees for wage increases and COLA. I mentioned that to the union that represents ODOT, and I had ODOT workers there, and they're mostly Republican in the one where I was at, and they weren't mad at me. They said, "Hey, we get where you're at," but this union person kept pushing and pushing and pushing. And I said, "Fine, did you tell your membership here that there's $375 million that is going to be for you, the union people?" And you're going to give everybody raises and say, look what we did for our jobs. We took care of our people. We got all the right people elected. And now we're going to reward you for supporting us, yada, yada, yada. That's basically what it amounts to. And I said, we could take that 350 million and divert that into ODOT's budget and you'd be made whole for the next two biennium. And everybody could just get a COLA increase. Hey, we're going to freeze wages because we're worried about this stuff. And the union guy just had nothing to say. He's like, "Oh my gosh, what's going on with this?" He didn't see that coming, and what he did, he tried to sidestep and everything. And so, in doing those things, they turned around and didn't have. He didn't realize that was going to come out and say that stuff because they turned around and like, "Oh, well, we need to know that you're going to vote for this package." I'm like, "No, we're not going to do that."
Oh, just lost your sound there.
Yeah, there. Okay, there we go.
Uh,
Oh my, it's bedtime. The kids are trying to get to bed in here, so
oh,
it's
right. And they were saying
yeah,
goodnight. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. No,
yeah. Okay.
I think that here's the thing that this is where the rhetoric all goes wrong. The Democrats are saying that the big beautiful bill and the impact on the budget is so that they can give tax cuts to millionaires and billionaires. But
It's a lie. This is a
which
flat out lie.
which millionaires and billionaires are making a living off of Social Security, um, overtime, and tips?
Oh,
Let's
that's right. I forgot about the overtime. I I'm pretty sure billionaires not working overtime. Not they shouldn't be collecting Social Security at all. All right, and then their tips really. So it's the rhetoric. It's the machine that's cranking up. I mean, you know what? I'm running for Senate. They're going to tell me I'm a bad person. I'm going to overturn abortion, Roe v. Wade. Oh, wait a minute, Roe we got overturned. It's now up to the states. It's in our Constitution. Can't use that. Oh, he's bad on guns. Come on, just talk about the issues. Let's debate issues, not fiction.
And what about real problems? They keep bringing up these things every couple of years that are already in Oregon law. We're not, you know, they want to debate about abortion, but it's already in Oregon law.
Yeah,
And
it's in the Constitution already. It says you can't. Period. Moving on. That is not going to change. The Oregon voters have decided where that's at, and they're moving on. Let's move on to when I was House Leader. One of the things I told it was actually the governor, Senate President Wagner, and Speaker of the House Rayfield. Hey, if we can stop talking about guns and abortion, we can actually get some good work done. And we did in that session I was there, and we got some good work done. Some people liked it, some people didn't, but that wasn't part of the conversation because that's where those emotions and everything else come up. But your special interest groups, whichever side of the aisle on, if they're not sitting there churning the uh, Planned Parenthood thing, those people, they're not able to raise money and fundraise and things like that because they don't have anything to campaign on or to fundraise on. It's like, okay, there's where it's at. You can't keep all your people employed. I mean, during when we redid the Measure 110 criminalized drugs, when we did that, I didn't realize the ACLU had so many lawyers and people on the books working for them because you walk into that hearing, everybody's wearing, I work for the ACLU. I'm an advocate for the ACLU. Like, oh, come on, people. Now all of a sudden it seems like you're kind of fibbing a little bit. I mean, are you really being intellectually honest with your testimony, or are you kind of fabricating some stuff? Because everybody had a shirt on that said they worked for the ACLU that was in there testifying that night.
they're hired guns.
Well, they were all volunteers and this and that. Like,
Yeah, they're
just not
volunteering.
gonna,
Yes.
whatever. Yeah, I mean,
We like to call them paid volunteers, or
yeah,
as
paid
it were.
volunteer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if they pay taxes.
Do you like having your job at the ACLU? Yes, I do. Okay, well then you're testifying. Okay,
Oh,
and
yeah, paid volunteers,
and
right?
it's not like they didn't agree with what they were testifying, but it's a compulsory thing. This
Yep.
is the thing, is that people are starting to feel like there really isn't any connection to the people running between the people running the state and the people who want problem solved that aren't in the Capitol building. And
Hmm.
that distance is growing. Now I know that you mentioned about representatives having their own reasons for casting votes, but there was something interesting that developed with Representative Javity, which is he left the Republican Party and he went to the
Hmm.
Democrat Party,
Yeah.
and he's been trying to explain it, and it just doesn't make any sense. He said, "I think I have a better chance of solving," and he listed all the things he cares about, and it was all the things you were just talking about that have been made the way they are by the Democrat Party he's going to
Yeah.
go join. And by the way, the representative from Gladstone, remind me of her name again.
Representative Hartman.
Yeah, she's not running again. She just
Nope.
announced she's not running again. She's running for Clackamas County Commission instead, and she's the one who Democrat who voted against it. So I don't really think there's going to be a lot of tolerance for people voting in the Democrat Party, kind of trying to solve problems that they haven't been solving. Uh, and
There's Kevin. I want to kind of stop. There is a group of Democrats that are moderate that get together and try to figure out how to problem solve, but
they're not running everything.
they're not running everything. And once that group really figures out, like, you know what, we can just go over here, not say switch parties, but align ourselves with a group of Republicans and say, no, this is what we want to do, and we're going to do this.
Yeah.
The status quo would lose their mind. And the power would go to the people that want to actually go solve problems. But there are people on each side of the aisle. I'm not going to say my side of the aisle is not guilty of some things certain times, because we are. It's human nature. But there is ground there that you can actually get some stuff done that Oregonians want us to do. They want to have good schools. They want to have roads that are fixed. They want to be able to afford to live here. Now, I'm not saying those are human rights, basic rights, but that's what people want. That's what people deserve, not a government that's out of control and spending. Why is everybody going to Idaho and being prosperous over there? Because they're
Yeah.
running the government right.
We're running
They spend half. I don't. They spend a lot less money on their education system, and they're ranked a whole lot higher than we are.
Yeah,
So
and they have produced better infrastructure as
yeah, their
well.
roads are really nice, and you can drive 80 miles an hour on them too, and not have a bump on them. It's
Yeah.
okay.
Meanwhile, we have a Rose Quarter area that they budgeted for
Bottleneck.
in 2017, and absolutely nothing has been done there.
Nope.
And now it costs twice as what it cost back then.
I know when I
It,
was in transportation in 23, we talked about the interstate bridge that has gone and back and forth, right? I always call it the Columbia River crossing, just to poke the old timers that are still there and watch that failure that happened. It's like, geez Louise. But to that point, we bonded $1 million for it, and still nothing's happened. That project was starting out at $5 billion, and then, oh, $6 billion. Then all these things happen. I'm like, that thing's going to cost $10 billion. I'm just throwing a number out there, but it's not going to be the 7 billion that they thought it was going to be, or 6
well,
billion,
and
right?
the design isn't even going to expand the capacity. It's going to reduce it by adding other things, right? Like light rail
Bike
and
lanes and light rail. They don't want light rail in Vancouver, but they want to put it. They want to shove it down their throat. There's no light rail that goes anywhere further. They want to have all these things, and so a side note. So they want to have high speed rail from Canada to Portland. Well, they'd like to have it all the way through Oregon. That was talked about during transportation hearings this last session. And the mayor from Portland was really advocating for it. Well, we can have it stop in Vancouver. I said, well, how are you going to get it across the bridge? And, I started going down these things. I said, that is a joke. That is the worst money spent to give you $5 million when we're trying to figure out a budget hole over here, and you just need this little money over here for a study. Go to Metro. They got all the money. This is going to help Metro. It's not going to help the rest of the state. Why should we give you state funds? Well, it can be economic driver, all these things. And they sat there and tried to twist and turn this thing around. It's like, how about no? No to spending. Let's not go after the shiny objects. Let's go back to the basics. To basics. You've heard that's my mantra, back to basics, right? Back to basics, Army. But let's go back to the basics of, I don't know, keeping and maintaining our roads first. Let's do that first. Let's keep and maintain what we have for our infrastructure. But yet it falls on deaf ears because we have to chase the next shiny object. So
well, and everything seems like it's just a game to get more money. And not to actually address the problems. Like we've had this all over the state. Whatever the problem du jour is, like every municipality and county have been trying to impose or get past taxes for homelessness. Now it's taxes for fighting wildfires or funding fire services, and they end up, actually it's a game because they're filling a hole in the local governments that like deficits that they can't plug by saying what they're actually spending the money on. Eugene had one of these where they 80% of the so-called fire fee that they were going to charge was only 80% of it wasn't going to go to the fire. And it was just
it's administrative services, whatever, right?
Yeah.
And it's like when I was on housing this last session, these people from Eugene, sad sob story. Oh, these landlords are horrible people. These poor people, tenants, they need to have a place to live. I heard there was more advocates that worked for this place or that place. They basically want everybody to live for free. Nobody held accountable. If you have a criminal background, you can't use that against them for any type of history to deny them a place to live. All these things. And you know what? You're going to need to keep your rent the same rate that you had for your last tenant. You just can't rate hike it. Who are you to tell the private sector what to do? Government's job don't depend on the government to be successful. The government's job is to help you be successful by removing regulations. That's the job of government. Remove the barriers that keep you from being successful. But yet they want to keep underachieving and making everybody that's not successful just feel like it's okay. Everybody's getting their trophy today. And it, Kevin, I'll go back to my back to basics. I have a podcast that I've got going. I've got several episodes on that. I've had some really good guests. I got some really tremendous guests coming up. I've got the former special agent in charge of the FBI at the Portland office. I've got the former the U.S. attorney for the District of Oregon is going to be on. I've got a bunch of things lined up that are going to be really good. And they've got some good content here, and it's just they tell me basically the question I ask is, how can we get back to simple government? What do you see as a thing? And Billy Williams will talk about things. The SAC will talk about a few things. But in law and order, I've had Kevin Barton from the Washington County DA's office on, and it's all the same. It's like, hey, we got to figure out our core functions and get that taken care of. Ben West does a great job as Clackamas County Commissioner. He's doing a phenomenal job on keeping that accountable in Clackamas, and they do a good job out there. They really do. I wish Multnomah County could take some notes, but that place is a train wreck.
Well, so how can folks, by the way, find your podcast so that they can start following?
So you can just cue in Back to Basics Army, Jeff Helfrich. It'll pop up. I've got a YouTube channel. It's video and just audio. I'm on Spotify, Apple, whatever. There's a bunch of other platforms out there. I'm not sure where they're all at. You'll see my little clips I have, my teasers that come out on that. And then, like I said, I'm running for the state Senate, Senate District 26. I know it's tough economy times, but if I can get people that can donate $50, $100, $200, whatever that is, that force multiplier helps, because I want to show when people sign up, it's like, wow, Jeff has got this money in the bank. We don't really want to challenge him because I don't want to waste a bunch of money on a primary opponent. And then when we can use that in the general election and go after some of these seats swing seats that are held by Democrats. But you know what? People are going to put their name in the hat. They're going to put their name in the hat, and that is fine. But I will be the next senator for Senate District 26. And so your audience can support me that way, make phone calls, all that good stuff. But I need to get through the primary. I need their help to get there and do that. So that's helfrichfororegon.com.
helfrichfororegon.com is where people can find all the information to support and donate to your campaign and stay up to date, sign up for updates.
Yep, I do. We have a weekly newsletter that comes out. I have more people that have come up to me that I've known from my profession as a police officer or other avenues that have known me. And they said, Jeff, we really appreciate how you keep us informed. You really do a good job with that. I mean, if you look at my Twitter and my Instagram, or X, I guess, Instagram, Facebook, whatever, all the social medias that are out there, I try to do a couple of videos a week, get some stuff out there and have a conversation. I will reply back to you. I mean, if you want to start calling me names and stuff, you might yeah, whatever, and it's fine. You're not gonna hurt my feelings. And I would say it rhetorically, like you're gonna take my birthday away from me. Well, we saw somebody's birthday got taken away from them today, and we saw a father saw two children who will never see their father, and a wife that'll never see her husband again. And so I say that kind of flippantly, but it's true that people are gonna try to take your birthday away from you, and we got to pay attention to that. But we can't have this rhetoric. But I'm in it for the long fight. My wife and I were talking about this. She's extremely upset about what happened, and she asked, "Hey, do you think that people come after you?" I'm like, "Oh, they can try. Anything can happen. I mean, a bus can hit me tomorrow. When I walk out the door. But I survived a lot worse. People have tried to kill me in my old job, and so I'm still here. So
yeah. We'll keep fighting the good fight. And by the way, if folks want to also just stay up to speed with the bulletins you put out through your state legislative site, that's OregonLegislature.gov/Helfrich. And then they can also follow everything that's going on there, as we are still in the middle of a special session that's still going on.
Yes, we are. We're still in the middle of a special session. Go figure that, right? Doesn't feel like it, but it's been a strange year. It's just getting kind of weirder. It's just getting weirder and weirder, it seems like. I mean, I remember last in July when I came out so strong, vehemently opposing this political violence when the first assassination attempt on then former President Trump, candidate Trump, and now, obviously the president. And then the second attempt, and then you had the legislators in Minnesota that got killed and their family members. Mm-hmm. Don't solve it with bullets, solve it with votes. You know what? if you want to change, your vote matters. And look at Christine Drazan, Representative Drazan. How many Republicans sat on the sideline that election cycle? Okay, they want to try to blame it on Betsy, but there was people that sat on the sidelines, that Republicans that should have voted, could have voted, chose not to. And I think she would have won if they would have got out and vote. And so we would have had, Governor Drazan, and half these problems wouldn't have been in front of us right now because she would have cleaned house on a lot of
Yep.
these administrative things and these other departments that are out there.
Well, and this is the optimistic message for 2026. Heading towards the state senate. We need to make sure we have a great governor's race here in
Right.
Oregon and challenge Tina Kotek. There's some congressional races that would be great if we could be competitive in those and really fight the good fight. There's an optimistic future, and actually, it's so obvious that common sense can be applied to solving the problems that we just talked about here tonight. This is not, you don't need to
It's
be
not rocket scientists. It's not rocket science,
exactly.
right? I mean, to me, it's like if I'm the smartest one in the room, I'm in the wrong room. I mean, I have my stuff that I have a lot of knowledge about, but there are people that know something more than I do. And you get them in the room and have a conversation, and let's fix the problem instead of, you know, theater, grenade throwing. And I mean, I threw my fair share of grenades as leader for Measure 110 stuff. I will fully admit that. But part of it was because I had, not that I had to point out the obvious to get some light shined on the issue, but you don't need to throw a flashbang every 5 minutes. You got to use them sparingly because you only have so many.
Yeah. Well, and then it's up to the voters to pay attention and tune in, and they can also follow you on your Back to Basics podcast. I found it on here, and I'll make sure that this gets posted.
I
So that
appreciate that.
find it. Thanks again for being on here tonight, Representative Helfrich, future Senator Helfrich,
I hope so. I like
and
that. Yeah.
and keep fighting that good fight in the legislature. I know that that's not always the most pleasant place to be, and for standing up and saying what you said today about what happened with Charlie Kirk. We all have to stand up and say something and make sure that we use our voices to counter the violence.
And so here's the thing I'd like to leave you with is that, I could be in a room with somebody and I could be the chair when I was leader. I could have the most influence right then and there. I can direct this policy and do all these things. I'm the state legislator. I can make the vote. I can get these things happening because I'm in the room having these conversations. But what people don't realize is I can be the chair or, vice chair, whatever it is, but I'm just one vote. There's 60 of us in the House, 30 of us in the Senate. Until we get to that, until either we're the majority party again as Republicans, or at least if we could just get to even 30-30 in the House, that makes some people that actually have to negotiate. The status quo won't like it because they won't be able to play favorites. And the status quo, it works both sides. There is the status quo because, we know the Democrats are in charge. So we just keep going over here and helping them and keep them in charge because we know what to expect. Because if Republicans get there, we don't know what to expect. Like, we mean like budget cuts, actually fiscal responsibility, making sure you do the job. When we give you money, it's accounted for and doesn't get lost. Like OHA's lost $100 billion. ODOT lost a couple $1 million here and there, I heard, So it's those are those crazy things that happen in government, but nobody's ever fired over it. Come on. You got to be held accountable. Get back to the basics of what is the government supposed to do? Get out of the way of business so they can be successful. Let people do their thing as long as it's not illegal. Go do it. Get out of people's business and just provide for the basics that people want and move on. We need safety nets. We're not going to say we don't, but we can't be everything for everybody.
No, and actually the tide can lift all the ships in the end. Even government could see more tax revenue coming in with a prosperous, free economy. So
yeah, look at the tariffs that Trump's got, right? They're bringing all this extra money in. They don't know what to do with it at this point. And they're like, they're terrible. Our economy's dumping. Well, we've gotten how many billions of dollars in from these tariff stuff, right? They don't, it's like, holy smokes.
Yeah.
So, anyway, hey, Kevin, I appreciate it, man.
Thanks a lot for coming on, and looking forward to having you again as the campaign progresses. Give us updates and let us know what's happening.
Hey, I appreciate it. All right. Have a good night.
Thanks a lot, Jeff. And
take care.
Everybody, please make sure you share this show with everyone you can, especially in District 52 and Senate District 26. They need to know what's happening. And stay tuned for the next episode of The Captive Audience tomorrow.
One more thing to add into that. People may say, well, I live in Portland. I can't. He's not my senator or wouldn't be my senator, my House, my district member. Well, you can either sit there and let the Democrat just win, or you can help me by donating to my campaign if you're in Portland or wherever it's at, because you may all you're stuck in this Democrat stronghold, but you can help me get to the Senate. And if you can help me get to the Senate, that helps build more energy to get more good people elected, because we have to hold our seats that we need to hold so we can actually get some seats back to get to that even part. So if you're in this strong ports of Portland where it doesn't seem like there's hope for anybody that's a Republican, or at least somebody that's actually talking common sense, you can help me get to the Senate. I'd appreciate it.
Helfrichfororegon.com. All
All right.
right.
Thanks, Dave.